Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining in today on my live webinar. We're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty on what's going on with the real estate market. Also tips and tricks and insights that I share with all of my clients. What I realize in November and December, really Q4 of the year, is that I'm having reoccurring conversations with all of my clients this time of year. And really, we're talking about starting to prepare, think about what to expect, what to plan for next year as people are going into the holidays, really trying to figure out, what their next step is for early into next year. So today we're going to go over really all the information that I go through with my home sellers as we kind of go into the holidays and talk about planning for the coming year. But the information we're going to go over today is really helpful for anybody who wants to have kind of a broad overview update on the Bay Area real estate market. It's also going to be super helpful for home buyers because a lot of the information will apply for you also. So we're going to talk about maximizing the value of your home if you currently own one. And if you're a buyer, we're going to be talking about optimizing when might be the best time to jump into the market and how to leverage the statistics that we're talking about. So I want to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. As you have questions, throw them into the Q&A and I will make time to get to those questions at the end of our webinar today. We're also live on Facebook. Feel free. I'd love if you're not already, follow me on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever it is that you guys are. I want to interact and be with you there. So we're going to jump in. I'm going to go over, again, a bunch of data and insights and information today, which can be sometimes a little bit overwhelming, I find. But the reality is, once you look at the data, it kind of gives us a good idea at what's going on. And then we're going to be able to, I'm going to talk to you about leveraging that data and how to make that apply so it can benefit you actually when we're thinking about planning purposes. So we're going to jump right in. Currently, we're going to take a look right now at the current state of the real estate market. Lots happening this year. It's been kind of a tumultuous year, so everybody's kind of wondering what's going on. So we're going to take a deep dive here. And we're going to be focusing on San Mateo, Santa Clara counties, and the entire Bay Area. And then just for sake of redundancy, a lot of what I'm going to cover specifically for San Mateo County, but just know that for most of our neighboring counties like Santa Clara and beyond, this similar kind of metrics are going to apply within a few degrees. So obviously, real estate is super hyper local. We're going to be talking in general terms. So of course, if you'd like to know more about how this applies for you in your neighborhood, I'd love to deep dive into that for you. So just ping me directly. So where are we at with Bay Area median home prices by month? Well, looking back all the way to 2018, if you remember back to 2018, I certainly do. We all kind of felt like at that time, is this the peak of our most recent run up? Is this the height of the market? We actually started kind of trending downwards in 2019 and seeing some of that demand taper off. And then, of course, what happened, 2020, which none of us could have ever expected, and that surge in our already competitive market just kind of overheated and supercharged at that point and really kind of took off. So we saw median prices just exploding up 40% or more by April 2022 from just where they were in 2020. And then what we see is come October 2022 is those prices settling really to pre-2021 prices. And we're going to be talking more about that as we go forward. San Mateo County home price trends, again, we see that dramatic uptick. Now we're taking a look all the way back to 1991, just to kind of take a look at the trends. We saw nearly a 40% decline in home values over the Great Recession period. And then it took really about, the bottom, depending on the market, 2009 through 2010, before things started rebounding. And then by 2015 already, again, we were on the uphill swing and right back to pre-recession prices. And then from there, obviously, it's almost the sky's been the limit since then. And then now we're seeing a return to what we almost feel like is normalcy, pre-pandemic normalcy in our Bay Area market. And the 3-month rolling average for median home prices in October 2022 was $1,910,000. This was in San Mateo County, and that was actually down 4% from the year prior. This is super interesting. So a lot of data here, information, but what I'm going to cover here. So this slide looks at Santa Clara County. So in the fall, we always see a decline in prices. That's normal. We expect to see that. We see a little bit of a pullback in the fall of any season, but we want to look at, is this more than normal? And I would say all signs point to yes, we're seeing more of a pullback than normal. Currently, 2022, November prices compared to peak prices of this year, down 15%. So what that's saying is in Santa Clara County, on average, prices are down 15% from their peak prices from back in, let's say, June of this year. And that's a 7% decline from where prices were 1 year ago in November of 2021. 2021 in November, prices settled just 4% from the height of 2021, but they were still up at that time 18% from the year prior. In 2020, our market was really delayed because of COVID. So November was actually the peak in terms of pricing in Santa Clara County. And that was a 17% year over year increase from the year prior. In 2019, which was more of a normal, whatever that means in our area market for us, there was a 9% decline in prices from peak prices previously in that year in 2019. And that was down 3% from 2018. In San Mateo County, as we shift over there, again, pretty similar. Prices down on average in San Mateo County, down 11% currently in November as compared to the peak prices we saw back in, let's say, May and June of this year. That's 4% down price-wise from 1 year ago. So again, November prices are down 4% from where they were in November of 2021. If we look back to 2021, there was a 3% pullback. In 2020, there was a 9% decline from the peak that we saw of 2020 prices. And in 2019, there was just a 10% decline. So we can see, again, in November, there's always a bit of a pullback, but we are experiencing something a little bit greater than normal, I would say, for what we would expect this time of year. This is actually taking a look at city by city and where median home prices are basically Q3, so summer through fall of 2022. And what's interesting here, number one, we can look at average days on market. So we're seeing that tick up. 1 year ago, average days on market was about 7 to 10 days. So most homes are selling in about 1 week. Now we're up to, looks like, 20, 25 days. And in many cases now it's even ticked up higher than that. So almost 30 days. So properties are sitting on the market longer. And we'll talk about that more. When we look at our properties selling for more than their listed price, so here's where this category, it shows you the cities and if they are or are not selling for over their listed price. And what's interesting here is in the lower price market in general, like a Daly City, where median prices are at 1.2 million, we're still seeing that be pretty competitive, right? And that makes sense. There's more buyers that can afford in that kind of price point than upper price points. So it's still more competitive than other price segments. So properties still selling about 9% over the listed price on average in Daly City. As we continue, the most competitive, another competitive city is San Bruno, and they were selling for about 5.5% over the listed price. Again, kind of a lower price category market where we're seeing still a competitive market. And then in higher price category markets, not quite as competitive in areas like Portola Valley, San Carlos, Woodside. Our higher end markets are always a little bit different when it comes to days on market, time to sell, and sales to list price ratios. As we shift over to Santa Clara County, we see here Palo Alto, though, still staying pretty strong in the summer through fall 2022, with properties selling on average 3.5% over list price. And other markets, again, really hovering right around list price, maybe slightly above or slightly below. That's actually ticked down a bit even since this data showed up, and we'll talk more about that as we go forward. Sunnyvale, again, another competitive market, still about on average, property selling 4% over their listed price in Sunnyvale. When we look at the months of supply of inventory, again, I'm showing you all of this data and information. I'm really going to help you make sense with this and talk to you about how we can use this to plan going forward, whether you're a home buyer or a homeowner and thinking about maybe making a move at some point. We're going to talk about how to make this work for us. So there is a method to my madness in sharing all this data and information. So months of inventory, what we see here, these are active listings on the market, and we're actually superseding 2018 levels currently. And so we've got a lot of properties still sitting on the market that's lingering. You can see here, of course, spring of 2021 through spring of 2022, inventory levels were hovering right at or below 1 month's worth of inventory. That means it would take 1 month to sell through all the inventory that was currently available. As of the end of summer this year, over 2 months it would take to sell through all the inventory. So that's why we're seeing properties sit on the market longer. They're not being gobbled up by buyers as quickly as they were before. And since this chart came out September, October, this has ticked up even greater as well. Bay Area year-over-year appreciation. This one is interesting. This is just looking at year-over-year appreciation, so per month. So, if you go back to September 2020, prices were up 14% in September from where they were September of 2019. June 2021, prices were up 23% from where they were a year ago in June 2020. And that trend really continued with prices dramatically higher from where they were a year ago until we hit really June. June was kind of the wall for us in our market when interest rates started skyrocketing, demand started diminishing. And so we've seen a reduction actually in average prices compared to last year, beginning in June. Prices were down 2% in June. In August, similar in September and October, and that trend has continued with prices really slipping to levels below last year. Year to date, this is super interesting. So not as many properties are selling. And this is, good and not so good. The good news is we don't have a lot of inventory. There's not a lot of properties to sell. Bad news is there's just not many people that are buying up properties either. So in San Mateo County, so far year to date, so January 1 through end of November, there's been 32% less homes being sold in San Mateo County compared to just 1 year ago. In Santa Clara County, 28% less homes have been sold so far this year compared to the same time last year. So way fewer homes are being sold. And that's partly in fault because there are less homes on the market, but also significantly less demand on the buyer side as well. What does this mean? Well, what this does mean immediately, what we're seeing is a completely new shift in listing price strategy. And this is why, if you guys told me we were talking, you said, Brett, looks to me like prices are going up. Well, there actually is a reason why you might be thinking that, and it's not entirely not correct. And we'll show you what I mean by that. If we take one city, for example, and again, this is pretty similar, echoed maybe just by different price points a little bit up and down the peninsula, which is the area I focus on. We see that prices, of course, since peak back in June and July, probably let's say May and June of this year, where prices peaked in Redwood City, they have come down. So prices obviously have come down on average in most of our cities. Of course, there are nuances for neighborhoods and some of our higher end markets, but in general, prices have settled a bit from where they were in peak time of this year. But what's interesting is while that is happening, median list price trends are actually increasing. So look here. So April 2022, list prices were coming down still as properties were selling for over their listed price. If we backtrack this a little bit, so early 2022, that's when properties were listed, around the 2 million mark, and those were selling for $1, $2, $3, $500,000 over list price. And the list prices kept being pushed higher, 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 higher until that, paired with a reduction in demand, really started, settling out the market a bit. And we saw prices go a bit lower, where now we're actually seeing an uptick in average median list prices. And that makes sense to me because what I'm seeing is a complete shift in pricing strategy. Previously, the method was list super low, expect to have really a quote unquote bidding war that everybody talked about, where you would have properties selling for significantly over their listed price with 10, 15, 20 offers after just 1 week. Well, that's not happening anymore. And so what we have to do now is think about setting expectations. And if you are thinking you want to sell your home for $2.5 million, you no longer want to list probably at $1,998,000 and expect to have 10 offers in 5 days and sell for 2.5, right? Now what's happening more often than not is I'm seeing the properties that people want to sell at 2.5, they're being listed for 2.6, maybe 2.7, and they're sitting on the market for 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe having a price reduction, 1 or 2 price reductions until they get closer to kind of that price that the seller was expecting. And either it sells at a price that the seller is willing to sell at, or the seller realizes at that point or after a while on the market, hey, I'm not getting what I was expecting, what I was planning for. And at that point, what we're seeing them do is pull their properties from the market. And we'll show you what that looks like now also. Price reductions, again, this goes to what I was just talking about. We're seeing lots of price reductions. Usually that happens at the end of the year. But for us this year, that started in May. So properties are staying on the market longer. And that's why we started seeing price reductions to try to cause properties to sell. So now, again, as properties sit on the market longer and they've been priced higher, now that they're priced higher, there's a bit of room for those properties to have their prices reduced after several weeks on the market to help cause them to sell. Average sales price to original list price percentage. So what we're looking at here is, let's take, for example, in March 2022. So in March 2022, properties were selling for, on average, 114% of their listed price. So you listed a property for, $2 million, it was selling for 114% of that. So selling significantly over the listed price. Well, that has really tapered off now. It was really almost a cliff after midsummer. And now we're actually seeing properties selling for just under their list price as we've gone into September and October in San Mateo County on average. Many properties are selling for, close to their list price or slightly below. Overbidding, again, this is just kind of another way to look at that. So in spring 2022, more than 80% of properties were selling above their list price. But again, they were listed low, right? And they were expecting to sell for higher. So that was the strategy: list low, sell high. And that was working over 80% of the time. Now, what we're seeing right now is that 42% of sales closed over their final list price. So now it's not as aggressive. There aren't as many buyers out there willing to pay way over the list price. And in fact, many are ending up negotiating on the list price. What's happening if properties are not selling? So again, maybe your property sits on the market 3, 4, 5 weeks. You're not getting the price that you expected. Certainly, if you were expecting to get, what your neighbor sold down the street for back in, March of this year, what do? Well, a lot of sellers right now are withdrawing their listings from the market, and they're saying, you know what, I don't have to sell. I can rent it out. I can keep it vacant. I don't have to move, whatever the reason is. We're in a position right now where sellers don't have to sell, which is completely different from the change in market that we saw back in 2008 and 2009 when properties flooded the market because homeowners could not afford to keep their subprime mortgage loans. We're not in that kind of situation. We're in a highly a position where homeowners have a lot of equity. And so they're actually able to hold on to their homes for longer. So they're saying, you know what, we're going to wait it out. Maybe we'll try again to list our house in the spring of next year, maybe hold on to a few years. And again, this is what I'm talking to all my clients about. And my recommendation to most clients, depending on your plans and needs, is if you don't have to sell right now, again, depending on your location, condition, you might want to hold on to your property for a few years. It's very likely we're going to be on the upswing, and we'll talk about the data that points to that. And again, if you have to sell in the near term, then there's ways that we can maximize the value of your home, and we're going to talk about those as well. So what are the other factors affecting our Bay Area market? We have a super interesting and unique market here in the Bay Area that we're really lucky to have. Again, as you have questions, guys, put them into the Q&A, and I'll try to address those as we go forward. And we're going to cover again what the other factors are affecting our market. Work from home. So this is something that's not going away. This has continued. We're seeing this be a big part of people's lives, and it's causing them to think about their plans. When we look here, this is a look at return to work offices in San Francisco, San Jose, and other metro areas. So what you'll see here is, like many other major cities, San Francisco Bay Area has been slow to return to offices. And so we see here in October 2022, still about 40% of people on average only were reporting being in the office. So while our area has been very slow to return to work, that's completely changed how people use their homes and people's decisions on making a move. According to the California Association of Realtors, 2/3 of buyers still work remotely, at least part-time. This is a survey that they just did. So again, 2/3 of buyers still work remotely, at least part-time. This goes into how we think about marketing homes, preparing homes, staging homes, what to expect. All of this helps shape how we prepare homes for market. And then for home buyers, it shapes what we're looking for and for opportunities. Again, when they asked, does working from home play a big role in your decision on what you're doing in terms of your residency? 64% said yes. So it's a big factor. This is on people's minds. So again, it's super important. People are thinking about the fact that they are expecting to work from home for a period of time going forward. So again, how can we use that and leverage that information as an asset for us? And when we'll get to that. Outmigration. This is another big one. We don't have quite as many people around, and that really accelerated because of the pandemic. In 2021, the net migration out of California was 250,000 people. So we see, again, that being an influence on our demand. I would say, a lot of those people were already in a category that were not in a position to purchase properties. And so that might have pushed many of them out to other more affordable markets outside of California. So this doesn't have maybe a dramatic effect on our pricing, but to a certain extent, and certainly especially for the condo market, where likely some of these people could have been first-time buyers, this does reduce that pool for people that would otherwise have been buying homes in California. Other factors, and we'll talk about some of them a little bit more. Of course, interest rates, the stock market, job market, overall housing prices, and election cycles. What's important to note here is whether or not any of this is actually happening in reality, just the idea of it alone, any sense of uncertainty causes home buyers to pause on their plans. And so it does influence them. I'm going to speed up here just for sake of time a little bit, but looking ahead here, we are expecting interest rates to continue to tick up a bit. Best case scenario, the mortgage rates are expected to be in the high 6s in 2023. Worst case scenario, up to nearly 9%. Right now, rates in the Bay Area are hovering around 6%, which is down from a high of around 7% that we saw back in October. The Federal Reserve, what they're saying about their federal funds rate, they are expecting rates to increase, their federal funds rate to increase a bit in 2023, and then maybe start tapering off by 2025. And this is their kind of their basis points, 4.4 that they're talking about. That was near zero just a year ago. And if we look down here, the shaded area shows if the U.S., if they are indicating whether or not the U.S. is in a recession. They're saying that we are, and it's an accelerating recession, likely to get worse in 2023 before tapering off into 2025. So again, that can help shape our decisions as we're planning the next year or 24 months. Layoffs. So this is a big one. I sat down with the chief economist of the National Association of Realtors early November, and he was really bright. He said, the bright spot is we're not seeing a lot of layoffs going on right now. The recession doesn't seem that deep. But that was before a lot of these announced layoffs were happening. So these are really leading indicators that we're watching here and tracking. So late November, just recently, DoorDash laid off 1,250 people here in the Bay Area, Kraken 1,100, Salesforce 1,000, citing economic conditions, cost-cutting initiatives, cost-cutting, market dynamics. So people are losing their jobs, and that certainly is going to impact us going forward. Owning California is still a good idea. The reason is we're not building enough. So there never will be more single-family homes here on the peninsula. And that's why single-family home values are going to continue to be a very safe bet for those looking to build wealth in the Bay Area. 2023 predictions. This is the California Association of Realtors predicts on average in total sales to decline, the number of sales down about 7.2% next year, and for home prices to decline by 8.8% on average next year. Timing the market. So when we look at the market, there's seasonality in our market. So what we see here are two different things. So prices are in red, average prices. What we see in any given year, prices peak in March and April, July, March, April, November, March. So by kind of late spring is when we see peak prices in any given year generally. And then from there, we see a dramatic increase in the inventory, the number of properties on the market, which is green. So if you're a home seller, probably don't want to be having your home on the market if you can avoid it by July, because that's when you're going to have the most competition and prices start tapering off. If you're a home buyer, that might be a great time to be looking at properties, more inventory, more choice, and maybe a bit lower prices. So with all the information we see previously on the likelihood that rates are going to increase going forward, my prediction would be if you're thinking of selling a home next year, the peak for the spring market probably is going to come sooner rather than later. So maybe March, if you're thinking of getting that high price, I would be listing my property in, January, February, maybe as far as March if I wanted to get the highest possible price. So if you had your choice, I would be looking to do the early part of next year before prices decline further. Federal funds rate plan, again, they've indicated they plan to increase rates into next year. Currently, the federal funds rate is at 4%. 1 year ago, it was at 0.25%, so under 1% a year ago. And that influences mortgage rates. Normally, they kind of follow what's going on with the federal funds rates. Right now, this is exactly what I'm hearing from my clients, buyers. They're saying rates are going up. Prices will continue to go down. I don't have to buy. I'll wait and see. I don't want to be the one who pays too much. So these are all things and insights that we can use to help program and design your home to make sure that we're addressing as many of these concerns as possible. What a lot of buyers don't realize actually is a tool and a kind of process called mortgage and debt debasement, which actually means that it actually can be beneficial in an inflationary period for you to still buy property and lock in that rate. Because as inflation occurs and you're locked in at a fixed rate for a long period of time, what's likely happening is your income is increasing, inflation is taking place, and so the real value of your debt is actually decreasing over time. So it's actually a great time to be jumping into the market if you're a home buyer and plan to hold on to something for a long time. Now I want to get into my favorite part. We're going to cover it fast. I'm happy to send out this information and again, address questions that you have. So how can we use all this key information to make sure that we're maximizing the value of our home and in a way that appeals to most buyers? So 5 updates that I'm going to recommend that you make to make sure that your home appeals most to buyers. Number 5, super interesting, exciting one, garage improvements. Sounds not that sexy or exciting, but actually simple epoxy floors in the garage, cleaning up that garage, making it appeal as a flexible multi-purpose space is fantastic, because now all of a sudden you've opened up your garage from being a garage to a workout, to bonus storage, to a craft room, to a kid's playroom, to an office. And we know that people are still working from home, so they want to have those extra spaces any place they can find them, and a beautiful, clean, sparkling garage is an easy, cost-effective way to do that. Staging actually makes your home feel and appeal much larger and brighter and more contemporary than it otherwise might be. Simple thing you need to do. And the reality is these homes are selling faster and for more money because they are making buyers feel like things are move-in ready and in better condition than they otherwise would be. You can see the upper left photo here. Doesn't look as nice of a property as just adding some contemporary staging. Interior and exterior paint, this is an easy one. Buyers want to feel things are light and bright. This is a property that I help my clients refresh. Simple trim, pulling off the steel bars off of the front door was an easy way for us to really open this up, brighten it up. So exterior paint is a super easy way to clean things up. Inside, of course, dark colors, remove them. Sometimes things, home clients think things look bland and plain, but the reality is we're trying to make things appeal to as many people as possible. So paint and floor covering is an easy, cost-effective way to do that. We want to tone things down, make things neutral, so that way, again, they can appeal to the most number of people. Kitchen updates, this could be from small to extreme, could be as simple as painting out cabinets, swapping out countertops, could be appliances, really just depends on the condition, but people want to have something that's clean and move-in ready. And so if we can salvage what we can, I recommend we do. We just want to make the simple updates that make things feel fresh, move-in ready, and usable for the clients, because especially right now, people are maximizing their budgets. They don't want to have to do renovations. They're working from home. They don't want to have to hire a contractor and do things while they're trying to still work in a corner. They want to be able to move right in. So it's a great opportunity for you to improve your home with simple updates. Again, in the kitchen, simple lighting, countertops, and appliances go a long ways to make a big difference. And they actually are very fast. Usually we can have these done in just a matter of weeks. And it's quite simple, actually. Again, a lot of times clients say, well, I like my dark cabinets. That's great. But again, we're trying to appeal to the most number of people. And even if the buyers don't say it, they like and feel light, bright, and open. And by painting out cabinetry into a crisp white, for example, is a great way just to open up a space and make it, again, appeal to the most number of people. Lighting is big. The number one thing home buyers are telling me, they want a property that has great light, natural light, and great interior light. So what can we do to maximize that? Outside, we can pare back trees, make sure that bushes are away from the house, so there's as much sun exposure walking up and approaching the home as possible, and also open up, remove any shutters or blinds so that as much sunlight is getting into the interior as we can. Here's a property that was a little bit dark, dated, the bushes were overgrown, kind of covering the entryway. We just pared everything back so things could still be lush, did a nice repaint, and made things feel fresh and inviting. Same thing here. We took away a bush that really made the front yard feel a lot bigger and opened up the sight lines for the home, made things feel bright and fresh as you approach. And this is your first entrance and experience into the home, so we really want to focus on making it a wow and exciting moment. Interior lighting, this is an easy one. When we can, swap out old fixtures for, let's say, recessed lighting to really brighten up a space, specifically downstairs if we can. Again, where we can't have as much natural light, let's add in some recessed lighting, which makes things feel much more fresh and exciting. Swap out dated lighting, light fixtures. Again, simple, inexpensive things we can do to make things feel fresh and move-in ready for people. The nice thing is what I do for my clients is we can cover all the upfront costs of these renovations. There's no fees, there's no hidden charges. So why not maximize the value of your home by doing these in advance? So I always take a look at homes for my clients and advise them on what I expect buyers are going to appreciate, what they should do, and what they don't need to do in order to maximize the bottom dollar. 3 mistakes to avoid as a home seller if you were thinking of selling. Some clients say, I don't want to do pre-sale inspection, so I don't want to have a home inspection. That's the wrong approach. The reason why you do a home inspection is really a way to get a clean offer and not to have any surprises later. We would like to have all the information up front. That way a home buyer can make smart decisions now so that they can jump in and provide you even better offer actually now. Simplifying seller disclosures. So a lot of times clients say, do I have to tell them about this? Do I have to write this down as a disclosure? Whenever clients ask me, do I need to disclose? The answer is always yes. And again, it's really an insurance policy. We never want a buyer to come back and say, well, I didn't know, or no one ever told me this. We want to avoid that. So the more information you provide up front, the better it's going to be, and the more protected you're going to be even legally and transaction-wise from surprises down the road. But also buyers appreciate it. I know for my clients, when they look at disclosures and there's nothing noted, they think it's fishy. They wonder if they can trust those sellers because there's always something wrong. And so the more detail that you have, people actually really appreciate that. Leaving cosmetic repairs for the buyer. A lot of my clients initially will say, you know what, I don't want to do much. I don't want to do anything because the buyers are just going to change it anyway. Well, it's not true. This is an example of clients of mine that told me, you know what, we have probably a tear down. People are going to knock it down. Why don't we just sell it as is? And I said, wait. Let's do a few simple cosmetic updates like paint, refinishing the floors, just a few things that we can do in staging to make this feel light, bright. And now you're appealing to more people rather than just investors who want to knock it down. We're actually appealing to first-time buyers who want to move right in and use it as it is. And then maybe as their finances change and time evolves, they can make updates as they go. And this was a huge return on investment. And I see this time and time again. You open up and broaden the audience by just doing a few key updates. My passion is transforming homes to maximize net profits. For sake of time here, I'm going to skip a video right now. I'm going to see if we have any questions. I want to thank everybody for joining in and tuning in. I know I went through things super fast, but I hope you have a better idea on what's going on with our Bay Area market right now and a little bit of insight on what I go through with my clients on how we can maximize the value of your home and time the market, whether you're a home buyer or seller. So let's see if I've got any questions. No open questions, guys. Let me check Facebook. I'm live on Facebook. Let's see. I don't see anything there either. Let me just check. Okay, guys, no questions, really? Wow, well, I want to thank everybody for joining in. I will now leave you with, again, a little bit of overview again on my process that I use for my clients to transform their homes to maximize net profits. And above all, I want to wish all of you a fantastic holiday season. I hope you get time to enjoy time with your family and loved ones. And if there's anything I could do for you specifically, please feel free, reach out direct. I'm always available. Text me, call, email. Happy to help any way I can.